Back here for the PCS summer, as per usual, to round out the night. Got a couple more games left after Frank Esports upset PSG in our second. My name's Cerex. I'm joined by Mr. Clement Chu here in the PCS, sponsored by CDBC Bank. Thank you to Riot, Carry Live, and Karina for the operation of the league and the full production. Now, Clement, Dewish Team versus Beyond Gaming, kind of a last chance for Dewish Team as well. After we saw earlier, Sem9 got themselves knocked out, unable to reach up to 5, which is the threshold right now. Dewish Team only have 4 games left. They can only hit 7. When every win counts, I feel like it's a cop-out, but it truly is every win counting for Dewish.
Absolutely here. They have, I think, improved a lot. Even in yesterday's game against CFO, they actually held the kill score relatively even until, CFO eventually overtook them. So I would say that this is an absolutely huge matchup for both of these teams. We called today the day of the panic button. And here we have Sen Bong coming onto the roster. He previously played for AHQ Fighters, and even in Spring Split was actually the first place team of the League of Legends collegiate scene. So he's coming in with a lot of pedigree, a lot of hope, and we'll see if Beyond Gaming can kind of shift their compositions around to protecting Wako. That's the only thing I wish for.
Yeah, because it's a bit of a surprise just to say that Minji gets subbed out, but you and I saw Beyond Gaming on that Friday, and Minji had a bit of a rough time of it. I remember him in lane as well. I think it was was it the Frank Esports game, Clement? Oh yeah, that's right. And while it was okay, it was like, well, maybe they're just trying to sub in Zenbon, give him a chance on stage, considering that Wako and Kino have been more solid. And I think were you talking about Lakai as well there, Clement, saying that he was one of the better performing members.
I would say overall the problem with Beyond Gaming is their solo laners can't 1v1. They're not strong enough. Okay. They're very slow in lane. The best performer has been Wako, but the problem is Minji didn't play the usual control mages. They don't play the Azir, they don't play, stuff like the Corki, so they don't have a way to stretch out the game without bleeding out until Wako can carry them.
I feel like Wako is kind of in this story, even in spring, right? I remember there were some of the crazy AP Kaiser games where Wako was just popping off. 32% of his damage share as well. As we look at Dewish Team rather quickly, remember that this team hasn't subbed anyone out. Sticking with the same 5, which I respect as a team that is looked at as a developmental team. And Xiaotu right now, Clement, is a bit of a focus considering that he's holding a lion's share of 31% of his team's damage, but his champion pool this split as well has been pretty crazy to look at. Hell, even Lacunai gave you a nice surprise with Kled top in our last game.
Yeah, that wasn't a game that really worked out. But we're gonna look at where I feel like the players have been most improving on the side of Dewish Team and doing very, very well for Husha's part. So the big thing is definitely the first blood participation rate. That's one of the highest amongst any of the junglers here. And Beyond Gaming is a team with almost 70% of the first bloods being taken. So Husha has been a big part of that. He's great at finding these opportunities for ganks, and especially in the mid lane. I would say Minji's laning stats actually look better than they feel because he's been getting so many good ganks coming in from Husha. We'll see if he can still have that same sort of synergy with the new mid laner here. On the other hand, for WSL, I feel like his stats don't really do him justice. If you just look at week 4, his stats were one of the best stats in the early game.
Yeah,
with
he's
the
improved so
play
much.
and stuff like that. So I still expect him to go early.
I mean, the picks came out, like the Kiana didn't work out on Friday, Clement, but let's be real, WSL still has so many of these pocket picks, and it surprised us as a jungler that started quite tragically, really struggling with knowing what to do next and where to path, to now kind of being a core member to focus on for Dewish Team and their rise to try and clench that 8th spot. Welcome to Pick Ban, where we've had 2 quite interesting bans. Samira against Bang 2, LeBlanc against Xiaotu. And we look at an Amumu ban against a team that they're like, well, they're probably going to first pick Kalista, but they've just left open Renata for the first time in a while.
Yeah, we haven't seen that being taken by anyone just yet. And Beyond Gaming, okay, they're not going for any of the hyper carries. The Sivir is still up. There's still a lot of different ADs, Zeri even there, but they're going to go with just bust the bot lane. So I might have the wrong read on Sembong. I wanted them to go control mage, hyper carry for the bot side.
Yeah.
But I will say Sembong's champion pool, when he was playing in the actual sanctioned PCS and LMS circuits, his most played were Yasuo and Aurelion Sol. This is a very spicy player. I'm not really sure what he's gonna pull out, but just a bit of warning right there. He doesn't play the usual stuff.
Okay, Chloe, that's all you need to tell me, man. I'll be excited to see. Maybe it is a comp that wants to speed things up a bit. As for Duish team, I'm already setting up picks here, Clement. We get an Ashe, which is a flex pick technically. With Duish team, like, we don't care about Renata. We're going to leave it open because Ashe has been a common counter pick, common practice into that specific support.
So we are seeing Duish team come up with, I would say, pretty much a stock standard strategy for them, which is they want to play side lanes rather passively and then try to focus on Xiaotu and WSL. So I feel like the Ashe, a very utility-heavy lane, going to give them plenty of lane information. And then the Gameplink, a champion that can, at the worst of times, just hang back, is exactly up their alley. They're likely going to hold the counter picks later on here. They could snag a Trundle, but I would assume that they will hold the counter pick for Xiaotu until the other rotations.
Yeah, because at the very least, I mean, that Renata's still up and available. You'd be crazy not to take Renata in the last 3 patches.
Ooh, yeah.
Especially when we're looking at it as, okay, Duish team, we're getting safety. I mean, this is just insane. I don't think I've seen Renata go to a second ban phase in quite a while.
Absolutely. I will say, though, the reason here is Beyond Gaming still look a lot stronger when they have Kino on something that plays Engage. When he plays these sort of enchanters, I feel like it's really a much lower priority for the rest of the team. I won't say it hasn't happened, but there's a good reason why we see the Amumu just being banned away so early on for Duish team. It's definitely a good idea there. Duish team right now, they're going for, I would say, some sort of a kiting composition. You see great zone control. They have good range and harass with the volleys coming in. And they're likely not going to go with something that's too committal into the mid lane. So I don't really expect like the Kiana build to come out anymore into this one. Something that zones and has range is likely the better options right here. I wouldn't be too surprised to see a Zoe actually come out for Xiaotu.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's his most played, right? He's 0% on it, but to be fair, Duish team don't win games. So it's not like any of the champion portfolios are going to be that great. Clement, it's true. I mean, they're doing
I know. The way you put it does sound kind of rough, though.
Well, look, I mean, I'm just being honest, right? We get a double jungle ban at the end. I like the Nidalee elite respect paid. But you said it a little bit earlier, it might be something like the Trundle. WSL going to hover over that now. And I'm kind of more curious as to what Lakai pulls out, because we already know that there's an Aurelia ban trying to give GP the safety in lane. But things like the Nah here, Clement, Lakai has played so many times, like every other top laner in any league.
Nyla's not open here, so we don't really have to consider that one. I would say something like the Camille here actually fits really nicely. Something that can go forward, lock down a lot of these targets. A solo tank is, I think, a little bit risky. Nautilus, of course, still definitely a very strong champion. We kind of expected that out of Kino. You could say they didn't really prioritize the Renata because they like to engage. Gwen here, definitely fits the bill for just keeping everyone in place. Great flank play. A little bit less certain than something like the Camille, but I think it's a fine champion.
So now I'm just more curious as to why mid lane is going to be Victor versus Zir, because when we hyped up one part, Clement, that Senbon is this Yasuo or Aurelion Sol player, he picks up a Zir. Xiaotu's this Zoe, Silas, Jace. We've had Rise, LeBlanc. He picks Victor. So not only are we getting pretty stale mid lanes, we also get ourselves a pretty interesting comp from Duish team that has semi-globals. I mean, globals, let's just be real. Run me through how you play with quite a passive wave clearing composition.
So Duish team, first off, they're very, very powerful in the late game. I would take their composition heartbeat. It's so difficult to chase up onto them. And if we're just looking at the post 35, I actually favor their composition more than I like Beyond Gaming's. Beyond Gaming, to me, they're in a very awkward spot where they're a double dive composition, and the Kalista is going to have trouble actually catching up to the enemy team, dishing out damage. So that's that. However, the reason I don't really like the Victor here is, as you said, very slow to scale champion, and then you have double globals on both of your side lanes with nowhere to go. I feel like if it was on something like a Zoe, you pick someone, you have globals go down, you secure a kill. It's very easy to snowball from that. Victor doesn't really allow you those opportunities. So I actually feel like DWT team with the last mid pick went a little bit too passive.
Yeah.
And that in turn allows, I feel like, Beyond Gaming to take hold of the mid objectives around the Heralds and Breaks.
Especially with Trundle, right? Like, you know, Azir shifting sands makes him hard to gank it past level 3 as well. But for Trundle with Zoe set up, would have been brilliant to see this team try and force themselves through mid when that damage percentage on Xiaotu, a nice indicator that he has been one of the players we've been talking about here, along with WSL, who's been a bit of a jungle focus. But hey, DWT team still looking for that win all the same. Beyond Gaming looking to get out of this bit of a rut. And when I say that, I mean a game losing streak rut, Clement. CFO, PSG, Frank Esports, they have versed some pretty hard teams over the past week and a half. Now it's DWT team who are sitting down so far below and are in threat of getting eliminated. Welcome back to the PCS Rift. Sir, where would you like to start? You already talked about some of the globals here for DWT team. Beyond a little bit, talk me through the early game and how Husha does his usual Wukong thing and build a bridge for the strong late game that BYG, despite maybe getting outscaled, Clement, still have in themselves.
A couple points right here is that the level 6 gank, the 2v2, is so much more threatening on the side of Beyond Gaming. They have the burst damage, much easier to knock back a Victor that doesn't have an escape right there. So I do expect them to focus that way. And also the other point is you do have Kino with this glacial augment, so very easy for them to just catch people out in the middle. I would say the strongest point is definitely when you see people start roaming across the bottom lane. There's a lot more agency on the side of Beyond Gaming, so that's where I really expect them to pick their fights and maybe go and counter WSL's jungle. For DWT team, on the other hand, I just feel like this is a slow scaling game. Try to play as safe as possible. Try to use that hawk shot as much to avoid early game fights. Just wait until late game. It's a very passive game plan for them.
Line coming through. Bang 2 taking a bit of a trade. Waka already getting him down to half HP. So we're speaking passive on one side, but Beyond, complete opposite. We know what Kalista's drafted for, Clement, and first pick for an absolute reason. Meanwhile, on the top side, Lacune versus Lakai. The double L, but Clement, who really takes the L here?
I would say, Lacune definitely did need to step up there. Gives a good trade to Lakai in the meantime. And this is one of those matchups where Gameplank, in theory, is decent as a blind pick, but we've checked the win rates, and Gwen definitely has a very strong presence in this one.
Yeah.
Those win the sort of solo trades later on, and I think it's a little bit more impactful when it comes to teamfights. However, as we said before, Beyond Gaming, in this teamfight situation, they're going to have to really rely on Likai and his ability to get good flanks to stop DWT team from fighting.
I mean, it's going to matter because look, there's a dive. There's a flash ignite. Bangsu getting flashed on by Wako. First blood, Beyond Gaming at level 2. That's the chat energy you want to see out of Wako and Kino. As Husha threatens Enhal more, but Wako's already done the dirty work, and Bang 2 is shredded.
Beautiful stuff from Kino right there. He flashes directly over the tower, gets the lockdown onto Bang 2, gets the ignite down, and Wako is able to finish off the kill. So a couple things to watch right here. Bang 2 actually uses the heal preemptively. I actually like that. Kind of a smart play to make sure it isn't cut off by the ignite later on. But he's just too low in the HP. He actually got poked out by the great chains that we saw. Ooh.
It's not going well anywhere, Clement. DWT team are not getting through this early game at the moment. It's a 1k gold lead. Lakai is fully stacked up on his Q. And Lacune running out of mana here to attempt an orange. Barrel denied. Husha coming up for the dive. He slipped out, he flashes, he's dead. DWT team are 1,300 gold down. And the early game, Clement, may be a bit too passive at this point.
Yeah, that's why I was a little bit skeptical about DWT Team's comp. The way they have won their 2 games is by playing super aggressive bot lanes. They won both of their games on Samira bot and just constant ganking into the bot lane. So I feel like, you know, a too passive setup, it actually makes the lane difference, the ID difference, even more clear.
That's a shame when you see the pillar. It's a worthy attempt, right? Like, I feel like WSL just unlucky with that one, and Senbon didn't have mana, so I love the timing, but because that gank didn't work out, they now know the junglers on the bottom side. Husha got a chance to reset, as well as look at the size of this wave building up, Clement, and look at where Husha seems to be pathing just around the corner in case anything happens here, with more priority shifted to BYG.
Yeah, and this is where we said that Beyond Gaming are going to be the strongest, where they can start to invade on DWT Team's jungle, force the Trundle to play just one quadrant here. And, you know, they have so far better engage at this point with Kino. Good for DWT Team that they do spot this out, and this could be a 3v3.
Yeah, it could be, but Husha still with his summoners available. Bang 2 is only level 3. They haven't hit him yet as Kino is taking up the turret, the pillar. Beautiful! The knock-up even better. WSL, now that's a pillar he can be proud of.
Ward to save lives right there.
Yeah.
Really smart from WSL. He actually walks away from his own jungle and then walks back around through the lane itself, making Beyond Gaming think that they have a clean 3v2. Wasn't the case right there, and they get an easy pickup.
As you said, that ward in the jungle entrance for BYG. Well spotted, Clement, because now with Kino going down, DWT Team are able to get some kind of reprieve in this lane. It does look like it's pushing back against Wako here, but they're able to set back up with Husha doubling down. I mean, they're not going to spot this one out, Clement, so I wonder how they prevent it.
Yeah, and there's no flashes on the bot lane. In they go.
Oh, here he comes. Onto Anhao. The Ren slows him down. Dredgeline flashed away from. And Husha redirects. So, again, jungle interference. And Bang2 even stepping up to the wave. Wako's just doing it himself.
They're going to try for this again. They know that the Trundle is in the top side, so they're just hard forcing DWT Team off of their bottom lane. Great lane bullying. Great bullying.
Back there. I mean, Kino always on the threat. Clement, 52-29. So even though there's a good response to the dive, I mean, WSL, as you said, as soon as he's spotted somewhere else, they're just losing out yet again. This Kalista is going to be massive.
We also have to pay attention to see if WSL actually gets out of this jungle, because there is Lee Kai, who's level 6, and they're hunting for him. You know, there is no arrow either.
Oh, he flashes over, but the needlework slows him down. A skip and slash will be available soon. Full needlework, the pillar great, but as Lakai just walks on back, the blue buff stays in place. And Beyond Gaming are getting themselves a dragon in the interim, so this is a beneficial trade for BYG once again, who still remains strong at a 1k gold lead.
Yeah, just...
Oh,
is WSL gonna cover this again?
Okay. Well, Ward wasn't placed at the very least.
Man.
Like, you know, do they call it a second time, Clement? There's no vision here. This time they're like, he's probably just setting up.
They don't. No, good play from WSL. It looks a bit janky. It's a good play nonetheless.
Yeah.
They deny the blue buff here. But in the meantime, what we saw in the bottom side was essentially Beyond Gaming actually got a 2v3 in the top. They were able to hold that, use the leverage to then take away the Drake, also get Wako onto a better buy as well. And, you know, this is going to look a little bit scary because the Fate's Call is there. I don't think DWT Team's bottom lane can actually leave the lane at this point. So we could see Beyond Gaming just try to go for a big play mid. I think that's probably the smartest play here. You just try to go for Victor, and then you move your pieces to Herald.
Spotted on the ward, Lakai, knowing that Nat's now warded with the minions attacking him. Kino setting up the barrel chain with WSL, but Lakai has been good at denying them so far. Needlework almost off of cooldown, as he feels confident enough that Husha's just going to be starting up the Herald by himself. He's snuck over the wall as well, Clement. Senbon's able to help him, and Husha's still not spotted out. I really wonder with Vision Toggle what this looks like, because we know that the ring is right there, but Husha's still not seen.
Yeah, they definitely know he's there at this point, I think. Yeah, Husha would not have been spotted in that situation, but I feel like with Azir heading towards that direction, they probably didn't know that Herald was on.
Yeah, but maybe WSL should be more obvious to it as Senbon comes in. Wall against him. WSL going to be walking the other way as Lakai. Not doing enough to Lacune. However,
nobody gets that.
Yeah, look, the problem is that Senbon just set him towards his mid laner, so no one dies, but Herald does go over to BYG.
Seen so many people fail to get over that wall as Wukong here. Another example of that one. Let's see if Lee Kai can bait.
Okay, he's got no Cyclone, but Red Smite comes through just before it gets nerfed. Who's just dead?
Dead!
Oh my god, no Cyclone, no problem for Lacune.
That was a weird one. It's just, I don't know what to say. He even had flash. No, he could have survived after the first tower shot. He just kept going.
It's his failure here. We look at the Cyclone that was used, and unfortunate Senbon in his debut, his first Azir ulti, and it just sends WSL back up the river.
Kino's also dead, so...
Yep. Yes, he is. How did that happen?
This feels so much like what we've seen from WSL when he actually wins games.
Yep.
He goes into the enemy jungle, he gets his flash burn, and then he somehow runs away at low health a couple of times. And then all of a sudden, he's 2-0-0. This feels like his Elise game.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, it started with a rough bottom lane, but we're looking at ward takes. And Clement, no one really out on the map. Jungle backed.
Okay.
Okay.
I think they assumed that WSL was just off the map, and he was like, nah, I'm just staying here.
So, we got a dragon coming up in a minute 10. Had a bit of chaos, but I will say what's staying consistent, as Husha spotted out by a ward, is that big bottom lane. Now we have to see if it can be a big top side for Beyond as well. TP going to be burned. Husha still thinking about going in with Senbon over the wall, but with Xiao2 now forcing his TP, Beyond Gaming have a nice road towards that bottom lane. Dragon, Clement, and Husha's still not leaving. Still ward. Okay, Husha, yep, back away, back away.
Husha, there's an open mid lane. You don't
Control
need to drop it top. You can actually just hold on to the Herald and fork for Drake. Just fork for Drake, man.
He didn't. He did not. He backed instead. So, you're right. I mean, he could have just opened up mid, set that fork up in motion with 30 seconds to go towards Dragon, but the Senbon clears out this wave, and Lacune is here to receive. It looks like we do have the Jewish team trying to gear themselves up for this next objective. But Clement, my question to you is this. How right now do you contest when Wako is almost at a full item and 40 CS ahead of your AD carry?
So it's definitely possible, but what Jewish team need to do is they need to be in position first. This is not a good team composition to work into spaces. I feel like they're great at holding their own terrain, not so much at pushing forward with this comp. They're very sluggish, and they don't have any gap closers, in fact, on their entire composition, outside of the comp bench, but you're not really sending them forward first. So I feel like what Jewish team need to do is they probably need to give up this tower, and if they really want to contest, they need to be in river first. But judging by the top lane position, I think they're going to hand this one over. I feel like they're still going to know that they have to wait.
I mean, all that gold given over to BYG in the process, though. 2,000 in the lead. Husha continuing to invade. He's on a ward, though. So WSL just going to pop over. Wants the smite steal, doesn't get it. But BYG still yet to have started the Dragon, Clement. I mean, they're not hitting this objective yet.
Yeah, now things actually get pretty interesting. This Trundle is so hard to kill right now. He already has the mythic item complete, and Senbon's on the wrong side of the fight. Jewish team are going to go in for this.
Enchantress Arrow. Oh, Wako, good dodge. Kino sets it up, the Cannon Barrage, but Dragon still sellable. WSL looking for it as Husha turns to the fight, but now they have no jungler. Jewish team is so healthy. Brand axes the smite here as Wako now looking to hop over the wall, and he gets out while Fang2 gets his kill on Kino. It's a bloody trade here for BYG, but the objective is eventually secured.
Yeah, and I have to say, I feel like Senbong was just not in the right position. He holds on to the Emperor's Divide, doesn't even get a chance to use that one. He should have grouped or stood on one of the ramps, but instead he was hovering on his side of the river right there. And I'll be honest, I just don't think Senbong actually did much in that team fight. The positioning was very off for Senbong. You know, he gets cut off by the two-man. Good thing for Wako to dodge all of this one. And honestly, the cannon barrage could have gone a little bit deeper into the middle of the pit right there. So overall, it's a 2-kill for Drake Trade. If you're Duish team, you're perfectly happy with that one.
Yeah, as you said, you know, the scaling edge when we're talking Victor, Gangplank, like, you know, even Ash utility, how hard it will be to get towards this Duish team lineup as we get past 35 minutes. So if gold looks to be even, then favoritism for Duish team, right? But Beyond Gaming still with the gold lead. They still have the double objective and the ability to force Duish team into some of these early fights. And considering, Clement, we're looking at these items getting picked up, like Immortal Shield Bow, Baby Gwinsu's Rage Blade, you know, it's got a bib on it. We've still got a huge problem in Wako, who seems to have been doing the most consistently through this game outside of Lakai.
Yeah, the big danger here, of course, is Beyond Gaming can just use that bottom lane that's so far ahead at this point to just continuously shove down your towers and deny you a chance to actually get back onto the map. And we do have to mention that this soul is probably the worst soul for Duish team. It's a Hextech soul that gives a slow for Beyond Gaming. If you're a kite comp, that's the worst.
Of course. Stretch line comes through. We might not even get a soul if the fight works perfectly like that. Pusha gets a kill, and it's Wako's damage that is now being shown on the stage. 5 versus 4, back away from this Herald.
Yeah, nothing much the Duish team can do here. I do expect this Herald to be dropped into the mid lane. That's the lane where you're gonna have a little bit more trouble to crack open with Callista and her melee range. And meanwhile, Beyond Gaming can just hold their formation top.
Clement, I wanted to point out as well, it's actually not just Wako who's a problem. Lakai is 40 CS ahead of Lacune. And with Lacune dying yet again, I mean, this GP might have Trinity Force, but doesn't really have a hope at this point against Lakai, who has the Rift Maker, probably sitting on a lot of gold as well. And it's just accumulating CS as he's even taken jungle camps in the process. He should be onto his second item, kind of like Wako, as they transition to top side. Kino going to get arrowed in the meantime. Husha here for a counter gank, and Wako's the one stepping forward. Doesn't really care. Pillar place, dodges, and shrugs it off.
Worthwhile try for Duish team. I can't fault them for that one. But Wukong shows up just in time. And if that fight would have gone on a little bit longer, you would have seen Senbong actually get there a little bit faster as well. Burn the teleport from Xiaotu, something like that. So, you know, Duish team, fish for a play, and they back off quite safely. I think this is exactly the point you want to attack here because, you know, mid lane's kind of a wave clearing fest, and bot lane, you don't really expect your game plan to provide that much help. So trying to catch out the pushing lane of Wako Kino, I think definitely the right move, but Beyond Gaming knew about it as well.
We have seen these arrows used opportunistically. There we go. And, you know, for Bang 2, who isn't going that Leandri's 80 carry build we saw on Friday, you know, not going anything support-like anyway, we are going to get an Ashe who might not have the cooldown reduction, but if that arrow hits Clement, the slow and the follow-up and even the damage will be there eventually. So I'm kind of interested to see how Bang 2 can get himself into the game. Talking about those arrows, talking about gravity field from Xiaotu, the big potential we've seen so far. However, that feels like it's a long way off because with the 2k gold lead, with the Herald now dropped mid, there's going to be yet another turret taken. All outers but top are down. And Beyond Gaming continue to push ahead with gold with 5 members mid, and the Sun Turret trying to force second inner.
Yeah, Duish team, they're actually fairly close on the gold in this one, so I do think they will try to contest. Now,
yeah, I'm just might have to cut you off. Okay, arrow
Wako
blocked here, and everything used now for Wako. Face call, but it takes the support away as he flashes out. The AoE enough, almost the depth touch saves his life. Senbong, the 5-man. When it matters, he comes in to count in his debut game. They set him up to succeed. Senbong Sakura Kageyoshi for the triple kill.
Ooh, what a beautiful play from Beyond Gaming. Very dicey on their bottom lane, but the critical thing here was Eno did step up to take the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Means that the duo can get out with the Fate's Call, and that buys enough time for Senbong and then Lee Kai to come charging in. We also saw a beautiful knockup coming in from Usha there as well. Basically, all of the area of effect control abilities were used perfectly by Beyond Gaming, and they just run away with this game.
It's so funny that Senbon has not had an impactful game at all, Clement. But it all comes together for Beyond Gaming as we look at this replay and at how long they survive.
Absolutely, Kino, doing the right thing, taking the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Very dicey by Wako.
Depth charge.
To happen. Oh, look at this. Camille, not the Camille, sorry. The Gwen going in onto everyone. Senbong getting the 5-man. And BYG knew instantly that the fight was over. This is the problem with these super passive kite compositions, is even when they see opportunities, even when the enemy makes a mistake, they can't capitalize.
Dude, that depth charge was just as insane as Senbon though, Clement, in hindsight.
Yeah.
Like, Kino had everyone around the fire circle. Everyone wanted to roast marshmallows at once. And they jumped in, they piled up. But unfortunately for Duish team, when we talk so much about their late game and what they could achieve in this game if it went on long enough, they give over the perfect fight to BYG with Wako and Kino not dying. And the gold now further in their lead. 4,000 with Soul Point coming up in 345. That dragon that you said is going to stifle Duish team so much more. And even now with the map more unlocked, I mean, Lacunai can't be here. Beyond Gaming want yet another turret, and he stays for too long. Needlework flushed away from, but Clement, as Enhouse saves his life, Cyclone in. That's an ulti burn. Lacunai still with a cannon barrage, but BYG are that strong. And Duish team looking to fight here, might rely on the arrow.
Yeah, we do have double TPs coming in from the bot side, coming in from the mid laners. But Beyond Gaming decide not to push their luck. They just use 2 ultimates to catch people, and there's no major objective here to fight. So they just gotta back off, continue to farm away. I feel like for Beyond Gaming, they're pretty much just playing for the Hextech Drake at this point. Once the Hextech Drake comes out, the slow just means that Duish team can't really use their composition anymore. I don't think they can run away from it.
True.
So it's pretty straightforward game plan, and Duish team are the ones that need to set up on objectives before Beyond Gaming. But at this point, Beyond Gaming can also move for Baron. So
yeah,
I don't really see how Duish team come back. I feel like this is a I'm trying to think of the perfect scenario for Duish team to come back in, and it pretty much has to be Wako basically just putting his face in a brush.
Okay. Well, that looks difficult. I mean, because even when Wako has that, he has Fate's Call, he has a Nautilus by his side, who, by the way, is going Zhonya's first. One of those real, what was it, spring build, I think? Spring, summer of last year. We saw Leona's Nautilus go heavy on the Zhonya's first.
Yeah.
Keenan doing that because he wants to put his face in and feel the breeze. Clement, how would you feel being Minji right now, by the way, after watching that? Like, God damn it, why didn't I get that set up, Why wasn't it me?
I'll just say this. If you're Minji, you should have been able to play Azir. Come on, man. All you need is just one control mage, and you could do this.
True.
Like, that's my problem with Beyond Gaming. They have such strong side laners, but they just need someone to shove away his mid lane. Like, Minji doesn't even have to be a great Azir. He could be like an average C+ Azir, and Beyond Gaming would be so much stronger than they are now. But he just doesn't play it, so I don't know. I really can't, the onus is on Minji.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, he's played Lysandra, Clement, control mage. But everything else goes out the way.
I will say, Lysandra is still a champion that puts her face right in harm's way. That's a Minji champion. I don't
More
really
of an
think that's
initiator, right?
mage.
Yeah. It's like, I feel like Lysandra borders that line of like, she can be looked at as an assassin, right? Like, great gap close, really good lockdown. She can have 100 to 0, especially if she gets snowballing. But you're right, definitely not the same lines as an Azir, who is 2 items in this game, by the way. Wako almost 3 items. Look at their counterparts. You can see Xiao 2 doesn't have the Shadow Flame built yet. Bang 2 doesn't have his Zeal item finished. They are massively behind, and even look towards the top side with the 60 CS lead. Agent 004 up there in Lakai has a Void Staff. His ulti is going to be fun to watch.
Absolutely. As Beyond Gaming just, they're fronting for this tower, creating some space, and they're probably just going to turn around for the Drake as it comes up. They have the Azir tower down here. I would say a little bit early.
Yeah.
WSL gets caught out. He's the jungle, so definitely not the person you want to die here. And there goes Beyond Gaming towards the Drake.
And Clement, he doesn't have MR. So Azir, Gwen, can have a great time, even if it's WSL going first, as that dragon is not going to be looked at. Not even an arrow to try and get the AoE out. Jewish team are against the Hextech Soul, whether they like it or not. And with Baron there and well-warded, Jewish team right now just... Are they headless chickens, Clement? Like, what's happening? Are we Baron? No, Baron. No Baron in the end.
No, they can't do Baron. There's almost no percent HP damage on this one. So, yeah, I just feel like they were checking to get some vision while they knew Beyond Gaming were most likely backing and resetting the map. So, you know, smart thing to do. Is it going to change much? Not really. If I'm Beyond Gaming, I'm super happy to just go for this Baron right here and right now. I know I'm in a sizable gold lead, and I 100% can chase down Jewish.
People forget it's not a 50-50 with Kalista, right? Smite, Kalista, Ren does more than Smite. For the full duration of the Baron too, the longer it goes, the more Ren you have, and Sax can do like 2k to take it down. So right now for BYG, with mid-turret going down in the interim as well, with all the vision being denied, and actually none left apart from in the back of the Baron pit, BYG have their chance to force them over to this objective and deal the final blow for Jewish team here in this game that matters so much for their almost impossible run to playoffs.
I will say Jewish team do have a lot of AoE magic damage that they can throw on people in the pit. However, Beyond Gaming, I'm still going in. Wow, that's impressive. He missed the wall too.
Yeah, it didn't get anything. I mean, at least he didn't fly to a potential death, but hey, Dredgeline forces him out. That ward's now denied. This is blind, and even though they know it's happening, and they do have an Ashe, look how fast it starts going down.
Yeah, and I think Beyond Gaming are just going to turn on this one. They know Jewish team don't have a good answer. Here we go.
Well, he's not getting in. Depth charge. Kino goes golden, and look at Lakai. Needlework in the back line, and again, Senbon setting out a perfect ulti. Who's just going to get low as WSL is going to die too. It's great here as Bang 2's playing the fight nicely, but Lakai comes in for the snip, and just when you think it's turning back around, Gwen comes in and does her sewing mission once again.
That looked a little bit dicey for a second right there. Beyond Gaming actually lose their front line first as Likai chases up the ramp. But once he comes down, that fight is completely over. Beyond Gaming just slapped Jewish team with their wallet, their Baron buff, and their Hextech. And they're just going to clean this one up.
And then Mercedes as well, Clement, let's be honest. Jewish team, they're riding around in that small, like, 2004 Holden, you know, Australians don't know what I mean. But Beyond, man, they're in the Mercedes. They're going around with sunnies on, wearing the Gucci stuff. Right now, Beyond have shown us that through their lane, Zenbomb was such a nice addition. Wako won't even die in the end. Welcome Zenbomb into the Beyond Gaming crew. I think he's going to be here for a while.
Oh, he will be for sure. And this gives just so many more dimensions for Beyond Gaming to play through. I will say Minji was good at his job, which is backline assassination, but this isn't the patch for that. After the durability patch, we knew that Beyond Gaming were going to be the ones hit the hardest, and it kind of was the case. Like, afterwards, we saw the losing streak go through. You really need more of a control mage to have that scaling aspect, to have the fact that you can actually, you know, not be in a deficit in the mid lane. So I feel like Senbong is, if this is his champion pool, we don't really know that much about his champion pool. Like, maybe he only has 3 champions, and if you ban the Azir, he has to play Aurelion, Sol, and Casual again. I don't know. That could be the case. But if he has a normal champion pool, then I would say he would be a very good, even just as a rotational player, that would give Beyond Gaming so much more depth.
And even though, like, you know, some teams, right, like, we can have players like Minji, right? I feel like OMG are a great example with Cream over in the LPL, but he also plays both. You know, he has flexibility, but he also has those pocket picks as well. You know, with Minji not able to do that, maybe Senbon is a better direction just for the team dynamic, Clement, because further to your point, Lakai is someone who's been doing really well within the lane. Hushra as well, syncing up nicely with both bot and top. Quite a lot in that game on the Wukong. Yeah. And with Wako having such a good split, like, you're right. Mid just needs to sit there, look pretty, and farm it out, as Senbon did.
Exactly. Shove a couple waves, you know, get engages when you need to, be a scaling threat. You know, you don't have to. The problem with most of these melee backline assassin champions is if they don't get ahead early, they're kind of useless late game. So you're betting yourself on tempo. You're forcing Wako to play for a super early game. And a lot of time that leads to Beyond Gaming's downfall as they try to force plays. Taking a look at this draft, I will say that Duish team kind of looked at the last game and said, you know what? We're going to go with the PST draft that lost. That seems like the good way to go. And they basically drafted the same thing here. It's just like super passive, very much late game oriented. It's very strong, but it has no engage, no ability to capitalize on plays. And I just think you saw that Beyond Gaming were able to walk away with the early game without seeing any sort of a contest from the other side.
And even though WSL, like, there were a couple of moments, good counter plays, right? Oh, we stopped the dive the second time around. Then it happens again. Bang 2 and NHAL didn't get to play the game. Even with some good arrows towards these team fights, it's like, well, Bang 2 got to auto for once. And he did do a bit of damage in the end, but that would have been so much slower if that last team fight wouldn't have been that close. So, I don't know, Clement. For Duish team now in such a hard position, Sem9 were eliminated earlier in the day, and although Duish team aren't out, they've now only got 3 games left to play and only reach 5 wins maximum. And Meta Falcon team and Impunity will eventually verse. They'll eventually move off 5 themselves, we're sure of it. And looking like you can win all games here for Duish team, it just looks so hard. But hey, what a surprise that Wako got MVP for this one.
Yeah, I was kind of amazed that they left over all the hyper carry options, went still for the Kalista lane, the tried and true lane bully, and they just took it to Duish team's bottom side. Massive lead in the early game. I believe he was up 50 CS before flopping over towards the top side already, and then it was just you know, good escapes, which usually has been the hardest part for Wako. You know, Wako is a player that is kind of prone of getting picked off in the mid game. Didn't really happen this time, and they were able to.
And, you know, the funny thing is, damage gold there, not even high, right? Like, 84% is exceptionally low, but didn't have to do much once he found the lead, and for Beyond Gaming, a much-needed win. But coming up next, to finish off your night, because remember, no J-team delayed due to COVID, DCG, CFO. This is going to be a top-tier matchup, and with PSG losing earlier, this is the tied first. One of these teams has to move up to their solo carry right after this.